Awesome. Thank you for everyone joining us. We've got a great program for you today. Before we get going, just a few housekeeping announcements. Join us at the after party for the annual Benzinga conference in Miami, hosted by Cannabis Lab. We're going to have a special meeting for the for the Tampa chapter on May 1st. For all things Cannabis Lab, check out joinclab.com for upcoming events. We want to thank our sponsors for today's presentation, the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Cannabis Marketing Association. We appreciate your support. And without any further ado, I will let this amazing panel take over. So please welcome your moderator, Emily Wells. Emily, take it away.
Thanks so much, Rob. Thank you to the rest of the C-Lab team as well. Appreciate you hosting and coordinating today. I am joined by some really fabulous cannabis ladies, industry powerhouses, if I do say so myself. First, Addison Morris. She founded the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce in 2011. The Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce has a mission to move women beyond empowerment and into powerful result-driven career strategies, CEO positions, and business ownership. Their goal is to help women create financial success within the cannabis industry. Next is DeRay Ross, who inspires, innovates, and elevates the practice of public relations and marketing at the helm of her own agency, DeRay & Company PR and Marketing, which she founded in 1999. A natural leader at the vanguard of the PR and marketing realm, she brings success to her clients through creative, tactical, and benchmark-setting programs. Her guiding belief is that mutually beneficial and long-standing relationships are the key to businesses that thrive in today's capricious economy. Next is Elizabeth Udell, who's a social media director and content creator in Los Angeles. She's worked in the industry since 2015 in the medical market and has since touched 30 states in the country through Cookies, MedMen, and numerous MSOs and accessory brands. Despite her working with cannabis clients nearly 24/7, she also teaches on the side at various universities and creates content in both the entertainment and food industries. At this point in her career, she mentors and guides newcomers to the industry and veterans alone looking to amplify themselves in their own careers. Last and certainly not least is April Rodriguez, who serves as the designated broker and senior advisor for Florida at Zoned Properties, bringing over 2 decades of expertise in both the Florida real estate market and the cannabis industry. Renowned for her negotiation skills, strategic thinking, and advocacy, Rodriguez assists companies in acquiring, leasing, or positioning properties for cannabis use. She advocates for growth, innovation, and social responsibility in the industry, and as the National Executive Director of the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, leads efforts to empower and connect women entrepreneurs and professionals. Ladies, thank you so much for your time and participation today. I'm really excited to chat with you, and I know our audience is eager to hear from you as well. So we'll dive right into our questions. We've got 4 or 5 predetermined questions that we'll go through popcorn style, so feel free to answer them how and when you please. And so long as we get through those, we'll open it up to live Q&A from the audience at the end. So that said, we'll jump right in with the very basics. I would love to hear just a little bit about what encouraged you to pursue a cannabis industry career, and what obstacles you might have faced along the way.
Okay.
I can start. Or do you want me to start, or Addison?
Go ahead, sweetie.
So I've been out here. I'm from Florida. I've been out in LA for 10 years, and I came out here to work in music and live events, but I was always a cannabis user. So I became a patient and I started to do some marketing on the side, but because it was the medical industry, no one was really doing full-blown marketing, and I was just, trying to do what I could. I'd go to dispensaries and be like, yo, let me do your Instagram for $100 a month. But not even then, it was like too risky. So I did what I could for 3 years, and then once we flipped to adult use in 2018, I joined MedMen, and they were doing real marketing, billboards, campaigns, everything. So I was able to really just get that going. And since then, I've been working with so many brands on their social media marketing. But you gotta just, this industry is very scrappy, and the hurdles are all there, whether it's low to no budget or, just really having to jump from brand to brand. Again, probably due to no budget. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a really tough industry to work in. It's not for everyone. Pretty much every single company is startup mode, even the MSOs. But yeah, as long as you're really passionate for it and you can really just hustle, then you have like a good starting point.
Well, I would agree. It's definitely a passion on some level. I think you have to absolutely be impassioned to be involved in this industry and the ever-changing nature. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, what's it going to be today? So in many ways, I feel like every year in cannabis is like dog years. It's like times 7. It's definitely not easy. Things are always changing, but that's part of, I think, also what makes it exciting for me and what we do. And like I often like to say, every state for us that we work in is like a different client, even if it's within an MSO, and it is the same client, because the rules and regs are so different. For us, it keeps it fun and exciting. And so I think that's what keeps us going, but it's definitely not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, and it is a lot of fun. And, to answer the original question, I would say what got us into it, I've been in business for 24 years now. And we had a longtime real estate client who was investing in the hemp space. And he said, I need you, come figure this out with me. And so I said, give me a few weeks. I'm a part-time resident of Colorado, but I need to really wrap my head around how I can do PR around this. This was back right after the Farm Bill passed in 2018. And it's been like gangbusters ever since, but it's not to say it's easy. It certainly can be a lot of fun, but I think that's what keeps us on our toes, so to speak.
Okay, do you want to go next, April, or should I? Okay. Okay, well, my transition into the legal cannabis space is atypical. I've been in Denver since 1968. I came out here for college on my 18th birthday. Medical marijuana became legal in Colorado in 2000. The first dispensary, which was medical marijuana, opened in 2005. And I had the great opportunity to be at 3D Dispensary for the first rec sale on January 1st, 2014. I am not a cannabis activist. I am a human rights activist that consumes cannabis. I am a serial entrepreneur and a feminist, and I believe the recreational cannabis industry would be an opportunity for women to have a strong presence in an industry as business owners and executives, and to form the industry. I saw cannabis industry as an opportunity for women to create wealth for themselves and for generations to come. And that messaging was and is one of the obstacles that the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce deals with. It becomes uncomfortable when women talk about making money and financial success. Starting an organization in 2011 that was focused on businesses and women in business in the cannabis industry, and not the patients, labeled me as a heartless bitch. And then turning around and telling women who had invested their sweat and money into male-owned businesses with the promise of partnership, that if it's not on paper, you have nothing. And when big money is involved, so is greed. My message made me and the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce unpopular. I created and I continue to create my own obstacles in the cannabis industry because my message and mission has not changed for over 10 years. I believe the cannabis industry offers opportunities and an amazing future for women. Hashtag just saying.
Fabulous answer, Addison. Thank you for your input there. April, go ahead if you want to round it out here.
I don't know if I can round it out after that. I wish now, Addison, I would have gone before you. My journey, it started a little bit differently. My journey started in 2008. I was exploring the medical properties of cannabis and how particularly it associated with cancer. This exploration was prompted by my father's diagnosis of prostate cancer. So he was a visionary entrepreneur, and during our conversations of how cannabis can potentially benefit him medically, he encouraged me to leverage my experience as a real estate agent specializing in zoning and land use to carve out a niche in this industry. So although I lost my father in 2011, the words continue to inspire me. So kind of toggling over to the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, that's one of the questions I ask. What brought you into the industry? What do you know and what can you achieve? So I'm sorry, hurdles, definitely a ton of them. I'm in an industry where real estate is specifically a certain way. Now I had to pivot and bring in that introduction of the cannabis component of it. So it was a struggle. I lost many different clients, but resilience pays off. And looking back, I feel like I'm in a much better position if I wouldn't have taken that leap. So no regrets on my part on that.
Awesome. Awesome. Those were all really great answers and segue into my next question really well. We had addressed that you have to have passion and grit and determination to get here. But how do you use those things or any other strategies or best practices really to not only get here, but stay here and achieve success as a woman, particularly in this industry that's so male dominated?
I'm happy to go. I think because I started my company when I was 24, I was very young. And so it's been 24 years. And so there's been an evolution of my lifetime just in a business, owning a business in and of itself. Then you weave in cannabis. I mean, it's like there's a lot of barriers there, kind of with all of those things. And I think I've always surrounded myself with really incredible people to work with, both that work on my team and clients, and also being able to choose the kind of work that we do, the people we get to work with, both on the client side and internally in our office. And I think it's like hearing the word no, whether it's from a female or a male, it's difficult. And I think just not accepting the word no and always trying to find another path, another way, another solution. Sometimes maybe it's a blessing and a curse that I kind of refuse to take no, but when there are obstacles in the way, it's okay, well, how do we figure this out instead of, well, the answer is no. Well, what's the way around it? What's the solution that we can come up with? And so that's always been kind of my approach. But I will say that we all have to fight to have a seat at the table in cannabis and to make sure that we're in the room where decisions are being made and we're a part of them. And together is how we can all do it. Certainly panels like this, organizations like C-Lab that give us the opportunity to speak and be involved. And I've met many, many wonderful women through C-Lab, not even just on this panel, but throughout many, many years that I've been involved. And so a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that's the analogy. And so I really do believe in that. And we all are stronger together. And I think that cannabis is so divisive between those in cannabis. I mean, forget about those that don't support cannabis. Obviously, that's a whole different topic. We see that day in and day out, but even within the industry, you would think and hope that there would be more collaboration. And I think as females, as women, we have the opportunity to really do more of that. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't think it's easy, but I think it's all of our jobs to help each other.
I agree. And I also feel like, your network really is everything. Since people are always hopping around this industry and going to new companies and brands. My former bosses, they keep hiring me in their new roles. I've been freelance for the last 2 years just because with social media marketing, job security is one of the, doesn't exist. And brands really would rather, pay like a monthly fee than a lower salary, and everyone wins. So when I have my former female bosses going to all these new roles, they bring me with them. So I think, definitely what you were saying, I've had terrible female bosses, just as bad as male bosses, but there are still really some good ones. And, your work is always going to matter the most. If you're good at your job, you're just going to keep getting recommended, and you're going to keep getting hired. And that's, the best way that I work with women in this industry, apart from being friends. But we just always recommend each other for roles, especially in marketing, licensing. From MedMen, I have such a big group of friends and ex-coworkers who have all touched so many different parts of the industry now. And we just always keep recommending each other for gigs, when every new state comes on board. Let's look at New York, for instance. This was a vertical medical market. It was really hard when they switched to find cannabis operators. So they started looking to California, they started looking at Colorado, like more established industries, to find, marketing help, primarily licensing, operations. So as every new state comes on board, there's just so much opportunity for veterans to keep finding work. Everyone's like looking for help. So having a really strong network is always going to be the best thing you can do in this industry.
I would have to add to both of your guys' great comments is just to be resilient and persistent. A lot of the times we have certain abilities that we tend not to have faith in ourselves. And if we can just have that point of encouragement in ourselves, I feel like we could accomplish a lot more just in our own ideas.
It's a hustle. You really gotta hustle.
And the hustle never stops.
Never, even when you think you're comfortable.
Well, so the question that you initially asked, Emily, was, can you share any strategies or best practices for overcoming barriers and achieving success as a woman in the male-dominated field? And I truly hoped everybody wrote down what these three women just said, because those are all three key points. Now, as women, we have always been in male-dominated industries. And I think the cannabis industry poses some different types of issues that you do not find as much in mainstream. I also think that there are numerous strategies for women that may appear to be small actions, but will have huge results. All the surveys focus on the number of women in executive positions and how many women own plant-touching businesses. There are no stats on how many women work in the cannabis industry or how many women-owned ancillary businesses exist. We need to show the world that we are here in the cannabis space, and that we are here in the cannabis space, and by our sheer numbers, we have influence. We need to step out from behind our brand and make it apparent that we are the brand. Every woman-owned company in the cannabis space needs to aggressively promote themselves and their businesses. I'm asking every woman in the cannabis space to start posting about their company, services, products, and their community and nonprofit involvements. A potential customer encounters a brand's marketing messaging at least 7 times before making a purchase decision. You are promoting more than your brand. You are promoting the presence of women in the cannabis industry and the cannabis space. And I am seriously asking all women in this space, in businesses in the cannabis industry, to post at least 21 times a month, because we need to shift the perception from a male-dominated industry to an industry of successful women making a difference. We need to be seen before we can be heard. And when we do have that opportunity to be heard, when we have that opportunity to be speakers at conferences or guests on webinars and podcasts, we need to showcase our expertise and our success, not our struggles. We need to stop answering the question, what is it like to be a woman in the cannabis industry? And we need to start answering the question, how can we make this industry better?
Fabulous, Addison. Thank you. I think that rounded out the prior three answers really nicely. I think the general consensus is, while yes, you do have to be scrappy and fight for your spot at the table. A rising tide raises all ships, and your network is your net worth. Let's see how many other kitschy corporate metaphors I can throw into this. Otherwise, I would love to chat about how we can specifically uplift and support women to foster just a more inclusive environment and ultimately be more supportive. Addison, I think your answer prior kind of was a nice lead to this. But how else can we ultimately make sure that we are doing what we can to support the women who are already in the industry?
I would say to celebrate all wins, regardless if they're big wins or little wins, just be supportive. If we see somebody doing something and it might be a milestone for them, cheer them on for it. Regardless if it's something that would affect us or wouldn't affect us, that potentially could mean a lot to them, much more than it would if somebody would have said it to us. Aside from that, I would say probably collaborations with different women's groups, leverage, a partnership potentially, leverage what somebody is best at, and make something happen there.
And I would say engage with them, share their news, cheer them on, share their LinkedIn post, support them, show up at their events, hire them. If it's a consultant, refer their business. Share on your socials, comment on their socials. I think it's us making sure that we're engaging with our fellow females in all the things, all the ways, right? So it's making sure that we're the cheerleader, and maybe that's not the best analogy, but really making sure that we're cheering them on, their wins, their successes. And I also think sometimes it's a matter of stepping back and just saying to somebody, how can I help you? Do you need something? How can I help? Is there something that I can help you with? One thing that I've done for a lot of years locally in South Florida is participated. The Business Journal, South Florida Business Journal, has a mentoring Monday. And that's not specific to cannabis, but it's something that I've been involved in for, I think, about a decade. And it's one day and you meet a ton of people, and I've always served as a mentor. And so I think it doesn't have to be that specific situation, but it is mentoring opportunities as well too, and making sure that we're hiring them, we're lifting them up, we're mentoring them, and giving back as much as we've gotten from our mentors and the people that have helped shape us, and realizing that it's time for us to make sure we're helping them and lifting them up, because I definitely was lifted up, and I still talk to many of my mentors and got a chance to even hire some of them, which was full circle moment. But I think it's our responsibility and our duty to make sure that we are cheering each other on and suggesting each other, promoting each other's businesses, and realizing that collaboration is key, and it's collaboration over competition.
That's definitely, what I was going to say, hire them, buy from them, just, support any way you can, keep that network going. Today, a woman in cannabis tagged me and a few other women in a post on LinkedIn, and I barely knew her, but my posts have touched her, and that was enough. Even if you really don't know if you are helping others, just by doing the bare minimum, posting advice on LinkedIn, you are being seen, and it is really nice to get these recognitions and then being able to help further after these kind of shout outs. So yeah, just everything you do, just kind of have a purpose. You might not get that feedback right now, but you could definitely be helping people without even realizing it.
I think I'm in a unique position because I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of women every month from all over the country in different aspects of the industry, and at different stages of their career or businesses. And there are some things that come up in every conversation, but the most important thing that comes up in that conversation is about their experience with other women within the industry and how supportive, how kind, how willing to listen and to give solid, relevant information. It is just amazing. I don't think that you get that in other industries. I mean, I'm sure that there may be mean girls out there, but I'm not seeing them. I'm not hearing about them. What I hear is all positive about how women are working together and that they're always there to help, you know, with a resource or with a piece of advice or, you know, with you really need to meet this person. We really are the great connectors. We know how to connect people. And I think that transfers over to social media. And I mean, I think that you two ladies can address this better, but in supporting women, like you said, with that, you know, we can do a lot of that on social media where we do like what they post, where we do share, you know, their posts, where we do say, yeah, good for you. There are little clapping hands there. But just to be there, and cheerleader, I think was the right word. We all need a cheerleader, you know, and most of the time we are the cheerleader. But we can, you know, but other people, if you think about it, have been cheerleaders in our lives. And, you know, they're those simple brief encounters, maybe at an expo or at an event where it's just, oh, that connecting with the right conversation. You know, I think that is so important. Yeah, I think we're already doing a lot. I think we are already naturally and organically supporting women in this industry. And so much of it is what we're doing right now is on these webinars and on the stage at expos and conferences and in podcast. You know, we are again just making ourselves present. And like I said, this is being seen. That's just my take on it from where I sit.
Perfect round out there again, Addison. Thank you. So we all know that yeah, there's an innate undertone of women just uplifting and supporting women in cannabis because that's what the industry calls for. But outside of the women who are already in this space, what advice might you all have for women who are interested in entering the cannabis industry, but might be intimidated or hesitant due to the legal complexities of it or just the overall stigma?
Well, I'll give a plug to C-Lab. I mean, years ago, one of the first things I did was go to a C-Lab meeting, and we were already in the space, but I went to C-Lab. I joined Cannabis Marketing Association. I mean, this was quite a few years ago at this point, but even for people that are not in the space, still getting involved in those types of organizations, whether or not it's your full-time job or it's aspirational to be a full-time job, right? And for a lot of people in today's cannabis world, they were in cannabis and they had to leave and they want to come back. So there's a lot of, the only thing certain is uncertainty at this point. And so I love the folks I've met at C-Lab. April's asked me to speak at other things before. I've been on numerous panels, certainly happy to be involved in Cannabis Marketing Association, just joined with Addison's organization as well. So I think it doesn't stop, right? So there's kind of when you want to get into it and where do you start? And I think it's ask who you know or connect on LinkedIn. I mean, even when I've done Mentoring Monday, just as one example, I have people that connect on LinkedIn. And last night I was in an event that they asked me to go to, and I didn't know her. I met her at Mentoring Monday, and we connected. She invited me to something, and I went. And so it's like everything is a possibility. Even if you're not local to South Florida, if you're in Colorado, there are so many opportunities and ways to connect with people, with LinkedIn, with socials. There are so many ways. And so it doesn't matter if you're wanting to get in this business, or you've been in this business a really long time, or you were out and want to get back in. I think that the sky really is the limit, but it all is that connector. I think what we're all saying in what we've said here over this last bit of time we've been together is it's about engaging, connecting, being a part of, and supporting. And so it doesn't matter what age range or how many years you have in the business. I think it's, again, getting involved. And the other thing too that we haven't discussed is there are so many philanthropic and corporate social responsibility opportunities within cannabis to get involved in, to donate your time. I mean, that's a wonderful way to meet new people, get involved. Certainly, I know Cannabis Marketing Association does a lot, and we've done a lot over the years and through our clients and on our own. So it's like what sets your soul on fire, what interests you, what appeals to you, and kind of going down that road. Who can you connect with? And sometimes by volunteering, you're meeting those people and really engaging with them. And you can say, hey, I'm involved. What do you suggest I get involved in? I've been volunteering with you. So I would say don't be afraid to ask and just do it. As Nike says, I mean, just get involved in any which way and whatever interests you or makes sense, and ask for favors, ask people to be connected. I mean, asking it's a great thing. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So I think it's really just being open to it and asking.
I agree completely. And what I would add to that is just seizing opportunities. There's so many opportunities in this particular industry that don't be afraid of it. That might be your interest into the industry and learning more about it. I would say also education. In this industry, you need to know exactly what is going on and when it's going on. And that in itself, that knowledge will loop you into different conversations that you may have not been privy to, especially at these networking events. We have a big signage that if DeSantis doesn't sign a bill by, I believe it's Monday, we'll have the ability to have recreational on the ballot. That's an amazing conversation starter. So I feel, not being in a way in your head too much, thinking, listen, I'm not going to do that. Just do it. This industry there's so many opportunities, and it is one. And Addison, I'll take this line. It's one of the biggest startups. So there's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, and I think, just like the obvious answer, if you're actually looking for a job in this industry, you can go on Indeed, you can go on LinkedIn. A lot of skills are transferable. If you've worked in retail marketing your whole life and now you want to work for a dispensary, there is definitely a learning curve, but cannabis hires outside of cannabis, especially new markets. When California switched, we hired from Visa, Netflix, Disney, Adidas. We paid for it because the learning curve was so big, and a lot of people came in thinking it would just be like anything else. But regulations aside, it's a very different industry, but the skills are transferable. If you've worked in security your whole life, dispensaries, warehouses, they need security. So, first steps, look at the job postings. See if, you have an applicable fit. And don't be discouraged when applying. It's not totally fair to say you have to really have the passion for the plant, but with any other role, you pretty much have to like the industry you want to work in. This isn't some kind of get rich quick scheme. No one in cannabis is making money. So just know that. Oh my gosh, why is that happening behind me? Okay. I have no idea why that is happening behind me. But
You said the magic word money.
I did, yeah, I said the magic word. But let's say you love fashion, right? You're gonna want to work in the fashion industry. You don't have to love cannabis. You don't have to consume cannabis. But if you are interested in this industry, treat it like any other role and go after it. And then from there, help foster and build a community. There's a lot, especially if you live in an area in the state that is very pro cannabis, then there are going to be groups you could join. There's going to be events. So just be on the lookout and treat this just like any other job and industry that you would want to be a part of.
Sorry, I was so busy, I was so intent on listening, I forgot. Okay, you know, when we talk about the cannabis industry, there's actually two parts to it. There's the plant touching part of it, and there's the ancillary part of it. And my advice to women going into either one of these is to, even if you're an accountant, you know, go to conferences, go to expos, get on, you know, sit in on these webinars and podcasts, you know, pretty much mirroring everything that these three ladies have said, education, particularly in regards to the policies and the politics. You cannot be involved in the cannabis space without being involved in politics, because you need to know what's going on in your state. That makes a difference. You just really need to know, and you need to know what's going on a federal level. You know, so like I said, you know, ask the right questions. You know, in the beginning with the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce back in the day, everybody wanted to know how to get into the cannabis industry. Now they want to know how to survive in it and actually make money in the cannabis industry. And I think with everything, whatever you go into, you need to research the heck out of it. Now, if you're an accountant or if you're in real estate, you already have a career established in the knowledge from that, which does transition over into the cannabis industry. If you are going into the plant touching part of this, I think, and again, I say really unpopular things. Before you do anything, do your business plan. But the business plan itself, those first 2 pages, that's just bullshit. The part of it that you really need is that marketing plan, because in there's your marketing research. It's going to tell you what your competitors are doing, and also a strategy from there. This is going to tell you everything that you need to know on paper about the aspect of the industry that you're going into. And then once you get your license, you get up and running. About 2 months in, you're going to tear it up and you're going to start calling these ladies, because when you get into it, there's going to be so much more to it. Oh, my other advice is, in those plans, really do the cost of marketing, because this is such a common story that people get into this and they think all they have to do is put an open sign up at their dispensary and everyone's going to be to pass through their door. Well, because they did market research, they didn't realize that there in Oklahoma City, there's 840, and there'd be 839 dispensaries in Oklahoma City, you know, because they didn't do their research. So this is where they really need marketing and a prayer, you know, but to have your marketing plan in place. And once you get into it, like I said, 2 months in, you're going to tear up your plan, because things change that quickly. And my other advice is to make sure, if you're going in the plant touching part of this, make sure you have twice as much money minimum as what you think you're going to need. And the other thing I want to say, if you have not had a business, if you're not an entrepreneur, you might not want to open a plant touching business, because to be an entrepreneur, that's much different than being a 9-to-5 kind of person. And it takes a certain type of person to do that. Just like everyone that's on this call, there is something in you that is different from those 9-to-5 people. That's why you freelance, because you've got that entrepreneurial spirit. And if you don't have that and you're going into something that is like extractions, you know, infused products, you really better be realistic about it. Now, and if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're realistic and going, I'm losing my ass as an entrepreneur, you're still going to stay in because that's who you are. Yeah, that's my little rant on that one.
And
Perfect.
I'll add on the entrepreneurial aspect and angle. I always like to say, and I was asked yesterday, do you think entrepreneurs are born or made? And I actually said, I think it's a little bit of both. But anyway, I always like to say when you own a business, you have two kind of buckets of jobs, if you will. There's the running of the business, which is all the stuff that like, it's not why you got into business. It's the payroll, it's that admin stuff. And then there's the other side, which is the work that you want to do, which is why you got into the business. And so I said yesterday, and I say it all the time, it is not for the faint of heart. It is definitely not easy outside of cannabis. You throw cannabis on it, that's a whole nother layer and level that is like beyond explanation, especially at this point. So it's not easy. I do think you have to have it in you and really want it, because the hours are enormous, but it's not for everybody. And that's okay too. You can still be in cannabis, love what you do, and not be an owner of a business, whether it's plant touching or not. So I think there are a lot of ways to be involved, certainly in cannabis, that is plant touching, non-plant touching, business owner, not a business owner. And I think that if you can just harness your passion for it, like anything, I think that really will help chart your course in a much better way.
Fabulous. Really, really great, insightful advice, excuse me, for ladies looking to enter the industry. Before we jump to Q&A from the audience, in about 10 minutes, I've got one more question for you that we can blitz round. But what are your hopes, particularly for opportunities for women in the space, as the cannabis industry continues to evolve? This year, with all of the things we've got on the potential horizon, but as the industry evolves in general.
If you would have asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have said, no, I have no hope for women in the cannabis industry. That if this was a war, we lost the war. You know, that we're not talking about losing a battle, we've lost the war. But again, you know, as I said, you know, I talk to lots of women, and now I would say I have so much hope and so much confidence in the future of women in the cannabis industry, because something has changed since 2020, and it has sort of picked up momentum and the energy has increased, and women are saying, we've had enough. You know, we're in this industry and we want to stay in this industry, and we're going to make it a better industry. And we're willing to step up and speak out about it. Because that's, you know, I think that's another issue that we deal with in this industry, is we feel we can't speak up. And I really get that, because if you've got a career in this industry and you're being sexually harassed by the person who owns the company, you're not going to start speaking out about this or file a suit, because you're thinking, I will never work in this town again. You know, so we're not speaking out. But the young women coming up in this, I think, and you women are the young women, you've got the energy and you are all so brilliant. I am always overwhelmed. I am never the smartest person in the room. You know, I am always surrounded by women who are so intelligent and so brilliant, and more than that, motivated. I think we've got a great future in this industry. I truly do. And I think we're going to really tip the scales on it in less than 10 years. Again, from where I sit.
Awesome. Awesome. If we want to wrap there, that's perfect. Ladies, I have been so honored to share the time with you and always have something to learn from you all. Let's jump right into the Q&A. We've already got one queued up, but for everybody else in the audience, feel free to drop whatever questions you might have in that Q&A or the chat, and we'll make sure to get to them. Our first one is from an anonymous attendee who asks, how do I reconcile and navigate being a female healthcare provider, independent as well as private federal government contracted, while trying to proudly represent my cannabis business without losing face and respect in my not so cannabis friendly profession? I must maintain multiple sources of income streams until my business is lucrative enough to support me.
I don't know what state the anonymous attendee is in, but certainly if in Florida, I think the medical aspect, and kind of leaning into that. I will share that when we were asked to get into this business in 2018, and I was very, fond of it, wanting to get into it, certainly saw what was going on in Colorado years earlier and whatnot. I had already had a business for a lot of years, and my specialty areas did not at that point include cannabis. Now it's been a lot of years later, and it does, and we have a number of clients in the space. But this is I really understand this question, because while I'm not a healthcare professional in being a nurse practitioner as this person is, I was actually quite nervous to put it out there that we were in the space. Remember, 2018 doesn't sound like a long time ago, but it was. Things were very, very different in 2018. And I was afraid that clients were going to find out. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And so I did it little by little. And I can honestly say that, to my knowledge, it has never, ever been held against us. In fact, I used it as an opportunity to help educate people. And I got a lot of questions about it. And people were just really curious. Again, 2018, different time. It's very different now. People obviously still have questions, but the questions I feel like now are more legal questions. Are things going to change? I feel like it's more of that type of stuff than it was, back then, where it was a lot more educational. And so what we did is we really embraced, because we're in PR and our job is to, create awareness and help educate. We really leaned into that aspect of what we did and used it as an opportunity. So we did little by little kind of get it out there, get it on our socials carefully, talk to people about it, shared what we were a part of. And I think we just did it carefully, but we use it as an educational perspective. And in that way, and I was nervous. There's nonprofit organizations I work with that are, that I was concerned about, that represent children, that, that just, I wasn't sure how they were going to react. And I can honestly say, to my knowledge, we never had any backlash from it. In fact, it was questions. It was more opportunities to help educate people. They had questions about it. So, I think you always have to be careful, and certainly, as an employment question and what you can do, I think, certainly that's an employment lawyer's, what your contract, if you have a contract with your employer, what that says you can and can't do, that's a different topic for an attorney. But certainly leaning into perhaps helping to educate and getting that out there in a delicate, professional manner. I don't think you need to hide it in today's world, but I do think it certainly matters on what your employment contract says, what state that you're in. So I think you do have to kind of check those nuances and make sure that you're not, invalidating any sort of, employment contract or anything like that. But I think leaning into it with education and doing so carefully, I think really that's the opportunity.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it definitely depends on what state you're in to have to worry about a stigma. Thankfully, there's only a handful of states that have it completely illegal. There's still medical markets. So especially you being a healthcare practitioner, cannabis, the backbone of the industry is that cannabis is medicine. Unfortunately, when a lot of states go rec, they get rid of their medical program. Shout out California, it's gone. But there's new research all the time about cannabis still helping patients. So, as always, like, you're going to have a pretty okay time navigating that stigma if you work in healthcare. Obviously, doctors are going to be very anti-smoking. That's why there's tinctures, that's why there's edibles. So, you also have to educate yourself on talking points and the nuances. I think that's something that really sets this industry apart is you have to know how to communicate in this industry correctly. People like, for instance, like you don't like to say black market, let's say illicit market. And this is just, coming from the experience you get. So if you're able to figure out your own way to go around the stigma and use your profession and expertise the best way in the cannabis light, that's already going to be a better experience for you.
Awesome. Thank you for your input. Shanae asks, as a woman of color, I'm always searching for DEI opportunities in cannabis. What organizations, groups, or programs would you recommend to get involved with to gain traction in the industry?
So are you involved in any organizations now? And I also think what state that you live in does make a difference. Right off the top of my head, I would go with MM4M, Medical Marijuana for Minorities. Is that what that stands for? Great organization. The woman who heads that is amazing. That's where I would start. But I also think that you'll find in all organizations, well, so what, okay, I kind of need to know what state you're in, because I think that depends on how strong the social equity program is.
So
And-
It's in
Shanae,
Missouri.
Shanae let us know she's in Missouri and she also wants to be your bestie.
Okay, thank you. I'm just laughing because usually people want me to be their grandmother.
Mhm.
Wow, Missouri, that's a hard one. Move to another state, sweetie. No, I'm only kidding. But no, start with MM4M. And I think that'll start opening up the doors. But in regards to organizations, I don't know how to say that. They're not all white. That's the only way I can say that. I mean, I think people of color are represented in almost all organizations. So, whatever organization you decide to get into, I think that will, and also again, join more than one group. But, start with MM4M and take it from there and tell me how that went. I'm easy to find. I'm all over. My phone number, my email, don't call, just text. My emails are everywhere, but that's where I think one should start. And yeah, and because you just need to start somewhere and that opens up doors. Sorry, that's all I have on that.
Yeah, Instagram's a to start, Can Inclusive is a good channel. Finding those communities even on LinkedIn is really popular. I forgot what Missouri is, if it's medical or rec right now, but there could be, like, you can do research on minority owned brands in your state and reach out to form a connection there, especially through Instagram. Just reach out to the page, say you love the products, and from there you can even build a relationship. So social media is definitely going to be your best friend in finding these groups, maybe even Facebook or even Reddit. Look on Reddit, see what they're doing there. See, like, any minority owned cannabis brands in your state. But yeah, definitely social media. That's going to help jump it off.
And I would say you can also start subgroups within, Cannabis Marketing Association. You guys do so much, and sometimes you can sit on a committee in a national, obviously that's more for marketing, but based on what your you know, what you do in for your career. Sometimes there are sub opportunities there. If you're in marketing, hey, look, Cannabis Marketing Association, they do all sorts of stuff and also have committees. You can create a subcommittee as well. So it doesn't have to be just the organization. It can also be just a cannabis organization. And you may want to say, hey, I want to create a subcommittee. I mean, we do stuff like that on C-Lab with C-Lab all the time, certainly Cannabis Marketing Association. So I know it's harder to start your own than it is to kind of join one, but if you don't have one, I'm pretty sure there's got to be some like-minded folks like you in Missouri. So I think that it's a variety maybe of options that we've presented that may make sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great organizations. I also want to mention a few that were also shared. So I was not familiar prior to this coming in, but ACHEM, which is the Association for Cannabis Health, Equity, and Medicine. MCBA is another great organization. That's Minority Cannabis Business Association. We also work with Marijuana Matters, or M2, at Cannabis Marketing Association, as well as Cannabis Doing Good. So there's a lot of really awesome groups to get involved with. Charmaine also just dropped the Canna Diva in New York for networking purposes, if anybody's looking for that specifically. But yeah, get on social, plug yourself in the right ways. And there's, like DeRay mentioned, more ways to get involved and be a thought leader than there appear on the surface level. Awesome, awesome. If nobody has any other questions, I'll go ahead and let our fabulous ladies say some closing words. But otherwise, really appreciate everybody's attendance and participation today. Appreciate the fabulous women composing this panel and who drive the industry forward every single day. Thank you for all of your hustle. It does not go unnoticed. It's appreciated and acknowledged every single month, but I'm glad that we get to spotlight it in March.
Thank you, Emily, for being such a wonderful just MC and overseeing everything and doing such a great job. So I think we need to say thank you to you as well for being a great host, moderator, all the things, as I like to say. So thank you for what you're doing. And certainly Lisa at the Cannabis Marketing Association, I'm obviously a really big fan. So I'm shouting you out because I appreciate what you all do tremendously.
Appreciate you, Dre. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And just in general, to every woman who is out there and in the cannabis space, each one of you is building the industry. Each one of you is making history. Everyone's voice has value, and each one of you has value. You know, on those bad days, just know that you are making a difference.
Beautiful. What a note to end on. I know that we are right at the top of the hour, so I want to be courteous of everybody's time and energy here. But thank you all so much. Hope to catch up soon and appreciate your time and participation always.
And thank you,
Thank
Emily.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
So nice to
Bye.
see you ladies.
Bye.
Great to see you all too.
Rock on.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.